Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Inferi, Heaven Wept, out April 10th on the Artisan Era. This album has 8 tracks, 38 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album. They are an American technical death metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, this album checks all the boxes for me. I'm looking for a record that doesn't overstay its welcome, a record that doesn't burden the listener, that doesn't feel overwhelming due to its technicality and due to its texture and overall sonic richness. I want an album that gives me a chance to digest it, maybe even quickly, so that by the time I get to the end of the record, I'm ready to go back again to the beginning. That playability doesn't very often appear in albums like this, but this one has it. And I think it has it because of being 8 songs, 38 minutes. The overall soundscape on this album is very different from previous records from Inferi, and I think that soundscape itself gives a chance to these songs to have a different outlook, or for the listener to have a different outlook towards them. Much easier to tell the forest from the trees when the nuances that exist on the individual tracks come to the surface, and you're able to catch those a lot quicker as you're going through a very fluid and dynamic album all around. So a great design that gives great quality to the individual songs, or a great room for them to exercise their quality, but never forgetting what the overall experience needs to be. Once you get down to the sound, this record is really interesting because to me it's their best sounding album to date, and overall I'm going to say that this is their best album to date, at least from my standpoint, in terms of what I look forward to in an album from a soundscape point of view. And I'll explain to you guys why for me this album is their best sounding album. This is a record that, while depending a lot on the technical side of the band, which has always been their backbone, and I don't think that is ever going to change, this album allows the sound to be richer, not necessarily on a technical side, but an overall composition standpoint. Offering more melody to this record allows the album to have the right ebbs and flows within the songs, so that you can better digest the more heavier, the more technical aspects of their sound without necessarily feeling tired by them, because of the pockets of melody and melancholy change the atmosphere of the tracks and give the tracks a more layered outcome. Not allowing the songs to be one-dimensional, just incredibly technical, makes this album a lot more palpable, a lot easier to listen to, a lot easier to dive into, and at the same time, it allows you to better grasp the technical side of the band and understand that aspect a lot better, because you're able to distance those elements from everything else that the sound on this album offers. So when you create an album like this, you're definitely making a more accessible record, not forgetting that it still needs to be incredibly technical, but making it more accessible by making it more palpable all around. It is a rich sounding album. It is an album that offers a lot of different elements, a lot of different ideas. Definitely a lot of different influences come to the table on this record. But I think it's important to understand that for you to create a very good technical death metal album, you don't have to tech death me to death. And previous records, at times, I felt like the band was trying to be overly technical just to showcase how good they are at their craft. I think you can do that, but also think about what the overall experience needs to be and create songs that offer more than just one outlook. And that's exactly what this album does from a soundscape point of view. Every single song has its common denominator, but every single song also has an element that sets it apart from the rest. Now, as you could expect, this is a very technical sounding guitar album. That doesn't change. I like the fact that they infuse a little bit more simplicity, at least on the outside when it comes to the guitar solos. They feel a little bit more classic, a little bit more over the top, allowing the technical elements to exist within the track, but giving the tracks always a little bit more room to maneuver when it comes to the solos, and also infusing a lot of melody, allowing that guitar melody to work in parallel at times with the more technical side, definitely creating much more width to the way the tracks come across, giving them more size as well. The guitar playing throughout this album is phenomenal. Sometimes it might seem simple, but from the simple you can really easily navigate to the complex, and that's where this album really wins the listener as far as the guitar playing is concerned. When it comes to the drums play a secondary role on this album behind the guitar sound, pushing the guitars forward, allowing the guitars to be more noticeable, more in the forefront in the mix, and the drums behind it creating a sense of consistency, allowing also the guitars, when they're heavy and linear, to move backwards to meet those drums so that the tracks can have quite a bit of size. One element that I was surprised that didn't have the impact that perhaps we've seen in previous records is the bass. Not to say that the bass sound on this album is not interesting, but the bass on this record doesn't play as big of a role as we've seen before. The biggest role on this album sonically is given to the guitars, to the different layers, to the different sounds, to the different textures, and everything else, either be the drums or bass, are there to support it. Now, once it comes to the vocals, this is by far Stevie's best vocal performance since he joined the band. His vocals sound so good on this record. You could really hear him sing, and I think that's something different that we hadn't really seen up until this point. The tracks allow him to be more of a singer on this album. The melody and melancholy that this album has definitely gives him more room to breathe, more room to maneuver, and I feel like this is a more complete body of work as far as his vocal performance is concerned. Really connecting well with the themes of the songs, the lyrics, the experience, but more important, the overall song structure and design. He becomes easily another instrument within this album. Adding some layers to the vocals definitely adds size and helps navigate the songs a little bit better, because certain parts of the track you want the vocals to match the same size as the song has from a sound standpoint, and adding those layers definitely does that without changing too much of the DNA of the album and of the overall vocal performance. I said this already, this is the band's best record to date. It's a phenomenal album, top to bottom, checking all the boxes. I can't remember listening to an album from Inferi that sounds as good as this one does, and I honestly feel the influences that this album has, the orchestral side, the more melodic guitar sound, the production behind the record, allowing the guitars to coexist between the melody and the technicality, definitely allows this record to stand out when it comes to the band's very own discography. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Feed Me Your Fear. Super melodic, super technical. I think this is one of those where you have a little bit of a melodic death metal experience mixing in with technical death metal experience as far as the guitars are concerned, and this obviously creates a great overall sonic experience. It creates a very textured, a very rich sounding song. The drums help pack the sound behind the guitars, allowing the guitars to go in different directions, allowing also the guitars to move back when they're a little bit more concise, but inserting melodic atmospheric pieces throughout the track definitely defines the song's character, and it gives it a very specific DNA. The guitar playing is exceptional on this track, and the vocals add an incredible movement to the way the song goes. You're going to see the sizes, you're going to see the layers on the vocals on this track. They have a great impact on the way the song comes across, and it really completes the overall experience. Then you have Eternally Lie, super driven song. Definitely a more brutal, I would say a more traditional Inferi track. Take away the melody and just turn the technical death metal sound all the way to 11. That's exactly what you're going to get from this track. A more traditional song, less melodic, more technical, heavier because of it, heavier also because the way the vocals hit. It's still a great track, but definitely a more concise, a more heavier, a more demanding song all around. Last but definitely not least, of Rotted Wombs. This is a super interesting track because I feel like this is their very own version of, I'm going to say, symphonic technical death metal. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but it is a thing in this song, because the orchestral piece that this track carries from top to bottom, not always necessary in the forefront, not always even necessary in the background, but it's there. It weaves its way all the way through this song. That orchestral piece is incredibly important to create that symphonic experience that brings a cinematic vibe to the table. This is a song that feels like a cinematic journey from beginning all the way to the end. Obviously, when those orchestral pieces come in a little bit stronger, you feel that cinematic vibe coming all the way to the surface. When they ease on those elements, then the song becomes a little bit more heavier, a little bit more demanding, increasing the size. But it's such a great track all around. It has great atmosphere. I really love what they did with the orchestral side of the song, not overwhelming the listener with it. It doesn't become a symphonic song from the get-go. It has orchestral symphonic elements in it, but it's not necessarily a symphonic song all on its own, because those elements are there to help the atmosphere of the track, to help the experience of the track, but not to define the song just by itself. It's still a very technical death metal driven song. It just has orchestral pieces embedded in it. This is it, Inferi with Heaven Wept, once again out April 10th on the Artisan Era. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next one. Take care, guys.